Hello again, and we are continuing this King James Version series. This time is beginning of Genesis chapter 4. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bore his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and his offering, because it was first fruit of a lamb. Was it speaking of Jesus Christ? But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother. And it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? A bit sarcastic, you see. And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bore Enoch. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other Zillah. And Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as kindle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she bore Tubal Cain, a instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son. I do not think that this is chronological. I don't think that this was necessarily that Seth was born immediately after. I don't think it was that there were no children in between. I believe we're going back again in time now to the point where, because we actually have just been through several generations of Cain, and I don't believe it was waiting that long for a new baby after Abel was killed to be born. I believe there has been plenty of other children by Adam and Eve what have not been mentioned, because Bible doesn't set out to mention everybody. If Bible set out to mention everybody, then you will find yourself and myself somewhere in there, because where would you stop? Fact is, only certain critical people to give an image of the history, they are there, but you should not make the mistake of saying where did Cain get a wife, because it's not mentioned here where is Cain's wife, etc., etc. Didn't have to be mentioned. So a lot of people get uptight about Cain's wife. This Cain's wife was another daughter of Eve. At that time was so strong the human race, the human genome, that was not a problem to have like animals do today, to have a mating between brothers and sisters. The lack of ability to have this, and when it was called incest and made sinful, was only much later, after Noah and after the Tower of Babel, and only later on when law is given, then is this problem become an issue. But in the beginning of humanity is no more sinful than if you have a dog and two of the puppies are mating together. It's no more sinful this in Genesis than that at this time in the history of law and God's dealings with people. Just want to say this because many people again and again bring up problem of Cain's wife. Is absolutely no problem. Problem is in your head and not in Bible. Okay, so I carry on at this point. Sorry, I've lost my screen. So Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and called his name Seth. For God said, He hath appointed me another seed, instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. Not many times since between sin and salvation. So salvation is never far away from sin in the Bible, even in the Old Testament. Why? Because God knew from the beginning that would come the Savior to save mankind, and so therefore is not many ways in long distance from fall of man to even early on mention about redemption, calling on the name of God, and bringing sacrifices of a lamb which is acceptable to God. So there is good news in amongst all of this, but Bible doesn't pull punches about making a kind of heroes of the early men. They are absolutely fallible all the time. So this is a very realistic book, not at all like old literature. It is very true and very not like the way early literature is always like deifying people, making a perfect people, but this is showing the person words and all, as it were. So very realistic ideas here. Okay, so next chapter 5, Genesis 5, we continue. It's taking from the beginning, reassuming from the start and looking from a slightly different prisma now. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begot a son in his own likeness after his image, and called his name Seth. So Seth was born only when they were 130 years old. So already before that there was probably more than just Cain and Abel. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begot sons and daughters. And all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. So he had many sons and daughters, it's made clear. And Seth lived 105 years and begot Enos. And Seth lived after he begot Enos 807 years and begot sons and daughters. In this time of humanity, probably by the time you probably still consider child, even right almost up to the time when you are 100. It's long period of time. The language they spoke was given directly by God, probably was not Hebrew, probably take long time to pass down to children. So children have very long childhood, very long before they start to give the first born, and then afterwards they have many more children, but not necessarily like as I mentioned here, because we are looking at covenant line. All the time the focus is on a particular line, one of many, into each generation. He goes forward, he becomes many in the next generation. We are only looking at one for many options of them. So all the time one person is chosen from a series of people, all the way until you get to Jesus Christ as the Savior. And this is the generations of Adam is a line to, of course, later to Jesus Christ being born of Mary. She also is a great, many greats granddaughter of Seth and Enos. So all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. And Enos lived 90 years and begot Canaan. And Enos lived after he begot Canaan 815 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Enos were 905 years, and he died. And Canaan lived 70 years and begot Mahalaleel. And Canaan lived after he begot Mahalaleel 840 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalaleel lived 65 years and begot Jared. Already you see the childhood is whittling down, not so long anymore. Now we have 70 years, 65 years, gradually shorter and shorter. And Mahalaleel lived after he begot Jared 830 years, begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalaleel were 895 years, and he died. There was different oxygen balance before flood. That's why the people are able to live so long. Also, sin don't take such a strong toll on human being, and you'll see some things in a minute what happened to change the nature of human DNA, and also the fact that atmosphere after the flood and after the assuaging, you get a lot more oxygen in the atmosphere than they had, and it's oxygen which causes the aging. Yes, you have free radicals. They probably didn't have very many free radicals. They didn't age too much. They have fantastic, vigorous bodies, fantastic, efficient metabolisms. They don't have these free radicals. They don't have the aging process in the way that we do here now. They don't have the sinfulness which is in the earth, the pollution, the cancers, all of the hallmarks of sin. So they are able to live for nearly 1,000 years, sometimes even more than 1,000 years. And people today just think it's a fairy story, but in fact, there's no reason why it shouldn't be, given those situations what was at the beginning of the time. So please don't regard this as being some kind of a fairy story. It is absolutely true. This is how long the people lived, and it's would not be recorded in this way if it were not intended for us to believe in it and to accept it as a historical fact. It is written from one of the most early literatures, and we can accept it as historical document. So just because you don't see that happening now, open your minds, you will see that it doesn't mean it didn't happen in the beginning. And here says very clearly that's how people live in the beginning. Probably will live during millennium also in this way. So get ready. Yeah, so I think we are in Jared lived 162 years and he begot Enoch. Jared lived after he begot Enoch 800 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived 65 years and begot Methuselah. He is the longest liver. And God walked with God after he begot Methuselah 300 years and begot sons and daughters. Why only 300 years? Very interesting why. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. He was a mere boy, really young. And Enoch walked with God. And he was not, for God took him. So Enoch was actually taken, he was raptured before the tribulation, which was of course the flood in those times. So he was a pre-flood rapture case, which is why many people, one of the reasons why people believe that there will be Enochs who will be raptured before tribulation in the end of time now. Anyway, Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begot Lamech 782 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, "This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord has cursed." So they all were really, despite the fact of living so long, it wasn't easy life. They still had this problem that the ground wouldn't yield easily to them. And Lamech lived after he begot Noah 595 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So, at the time when he was 500 years old, he had these children, and then something very interesting happened. It came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and this is beginning of next chapter, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. So they try, the sons of God, this probably mean the angels, but fallen angels living on the earth. And they took them wives of all they chose. Now we know that angels are not actually sexual beings. So these fallen angels try to be in sexual relationship when they are not really equipped to. So presumably this involves some kind of strange DNA level manipulation. Obviously they know much more about things than even scientists know today. So they would have been able to arrange somehow to basically to interfere with DNA of human beings and put their own DNA, mix it all together and make these monsters who are about to appear. So the Lord said, "My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. So now God decides, too much. I'm going to make it shorter, the human life. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, the same became mighty men of renown. The mighty men which were old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations. And Noah walked with God. And Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. And this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. And window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. So really it was as big as a huge block of flats, one of the biggest block of flats you will see, churned on the side, and made from wood and pitch, and with no windows or anything like that. It was huge, big structure, and it took him and his family a long time to make. You will see in just 1 second. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh wherein is the breath of life, from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee shall I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee, and of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort. This, remember, not species, it's a sort or a kind, shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, you see, and of cattle after their kind, of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. So he brings the animals to him, they come unto thee. And take thou unto thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it unto thee, for it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him. So did he. So I will continue to read about flood on next occasion. Thank you very much for your attention. See you again on the Huliganov's readings of King James Bible.